First contact. In the vast expanse of the galaxy, the Galactic Council had long reigned supreme. Composed of representatives from the most advanced civilizations, the Council served as a beacon of wisdom, diplomacy, and peaceful coexistence. For millennia, they had watched younger species evolve, guiding them towards the path of enlightenment and cooperation. But as they turned their gaze upon a small, unassuming planet called Earth, the Council found themselves faced with an enigma. The humans, as they called themselves, were a curious breed. Their history was one of unending conflict, marked by wars that spanned generations and scarred entire continents. From the earliest days of their civilization, they had fought one another with a ferocity that both fascinated and horrified the Council. Yet, despite their violent past, the humans had achieved remarkable feats. They had split the atom, unlocked the secrets of the genome, and even taken their first tentative steps into the cosmos. The Council saw potential in this young species, a spark of something greater that could be nurtured and shaped. As the Council deliberated, they weighed the risks and benefits of making contact with humanity. Some voiced concerns about the humans' capacity for destruction, arguing that a species so prone to war could never truly embrace the ways of peace. Others, however, saw an opportunity to guide humanity towards a better path, to help them overcome their violent nature and join the galactic community. In the end, the Council decided to extend an invitation to the humans. They would initiate first contact, offering the hand of friendship and the promise of a brighter future. The Council believed that with their wisdom and guidance, humanity could be steered away from the path of war and towards the light of peaceful coexistence. As the Council's emissaries prepared to embark on their historic mission, they could not help but feel a sense of hope and excitement. They were about to witness the birth of a new era, one in which humanity would take its rightful place among the stars. Little did they know, however, that the greatest challenge they would face would not come from the vastness of space, but from the very species they sought to enlighten. The humans, for all their potential and promise, were about to show the galaxy the true depths of their resolve and the unyielding nature of their spirit. The Council had no idea what they were truly dealing with, and the consequences of their naivety would echo across the stars for generations to come. The human delegation. As the Galactic Council's emissaries arrived on Earth, they were greeted with a mixture of curiosity, apprehension, and cautious optimism. The humans had long suspected that they were not alone in the universe, and the arrival of the Council's delegation confirmed their suspicions in a most profound way. The Council had chosen their representatives carefully, selecting individuals from species renowned for their diplomacy and tact. They hoped that their wisdom and experience would help bridge the gap between the galactic community and this young, volatile species. The human delegation, in turn, was composed of some of Earth's most brilliant minds. Scientists, diplomats, and military leaders had been assembled to represent humanity's interests and to learn from the Council's vast knowledge. Among them was Dr. Elena Novak, a renowned astrophysicist whose groundbreaking research had helped pave the way for humanity's first tentative steps into the cosmos. As the two delegations met, the Council's emissaries were struck by the humans' intelligence and adaptability. They seemed to possess a remarkable capacity for problem-solving and innovation, traits that had undoubtedly contributed to their rapid technological advancement. However, as the discussions turned towards matters of galactic policy and cooperation, the Council's representatives couldn't help but notice a certain evasiveness in the human delegation's responses. When pressed about their military capabilities and the nature of their ongoing conflicts, the humans were quick to deflect, offering vague assurances that they were working towards peaceful resolutions. Dr. Novak, in particular, seemed to be a master of deflection. When asked about humanity's history of war and the potential for future conflicts, she skillfully redirected the conversation towards the promise of scientific collaboration and the benefits of shared knowledge. Despite their growing unease, the Council's emissaries remained hopeful. They saw in humanity a potential ally, a species whose unique perspective and ingenuity could help shape the future of the galaxy. They believed that with time and guidance, the humans would come to embrace the ways of peace and cooperation that had long defined the galactic community. As the meetings concluded and the human delegation prepared to return to Earth, the Council's representatives couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something. There was a depth to humanity's evasiveness, a calculated quality that hinted at something more than mere apprehension or insecurity. But the Council remained optimistic. They had faced similar challenges before, guiding young species towards the path of enlightenment and cooperation. Humanity, they believed, would be no different. With patience, understanding, and a firm hand, they would help this promising young civilization take its place among the stars. Little did they know, however, that the greatest challenge they would face would not come from humanity's potential for violence, but from their unyielding resolve and their mastery of the art of war. The Council had no idea what they were truly dealing with, and the consequences of their optimism would soon become all too clear. Uncovering the truth. In the weeks and months following the initial contact with the human delegation, the Galactic Council found itself grappling with a growing sense of unease. Despite the humans' assurances of their peaceful intentions, there were whispers of something more sinister lurking beneath the surface. At first, the Council attributed these concerns to the natural apprehension that often accompanied first contact with a new species. After all, humanity's history of conflict and war was well documented, and it was only natural that some members of the Council would be wary of their potential for violence. But as time passed, the whispers grew louder. Reports began to trickle in from the Council's intelligence networks, hinting at a disturbing truth. Humanity, it seemed, had been far from idle in the years leading up to first contact. According to the reports, the humans had been engaged in a massive military buildup, pouring vast resources into the development of advanced weapons and technology. Ships, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, were being constructed in secret facilities across the solar system. These vessels were said to be equipped with weaponry that defied the Council's understanding, capable of unleashing destruction on a scale that even the most advanced civilizations could scarcely comprehend. As the evidence mounted, the Council found itself divided. Some factions argued for immediate action, insisting that humanity posed a grave threat to the galactic peace. They pointed to the humans' history of violence and their apparent deception, arguing that the Council had been foolish to extend the hand of friendship to such a volatile species. Others, however, urged caution. They believed that the reports could be exaggerated, and that the Council should seek to understand humanity's motives before passing judgment. These voices argued that the humans were still a young species, and that their actions could be the result of fear and insecurity rather than malice. Amidst the growing tensions, Dr. Elena Novak emerged as a key figure. The renowned astrophysicist had been appointed as humanity's liaison to the Council, and her words carried great weight among both the human delegation and the galactic community. In private meetings with Council representatives, Dr. Novak sought to allay their fears. She argued that humanity's military buildup was a necessary precaution, a means of ensuring their own security in a galaxy that they were only just beginning to understand. She insisted that the humans had no desire for conflict, and that their ultimate goal was to find their place among the stars as a peaceful and cooperative member of the galactic community. But even as she spoke these words, there were those within the Council who sensed a hollowness to her assurances. They saw in Dr. Novak's eyes a steely resolve, a determination that hinted at something more than mere diplomacy, and as the Council continued to deliberate, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were being played, that humanity's true intentions were being hidden behind a veil of platitudes and promises. The truth, they feared, was far more terrifying than they had ever imagined. And as the galaxy watched and waited, the stage was being set for a confrontation that would shake the very foundations of the galactic order. The tipping point. The fragile peace between humanity and the galactic community was shattered in a moment of fire and fury. On the fringes of the Orion Arm, a border dispute between a human mining colony and an alien settlement erupted into violence. The details of the incident were murky, lost in a haze of accusations and conflicting accounts. But one thing was clear: the humans had responded with overwhelming force. Within hours of the first shots being fired, human warships had descended upon the alien settlement like avenging angels. Their weapons, so long the subject of whispered rumors and fearful speculation, were finally unleashed upon the galaxy. The aliens, a peaceful species known for their artistic achievements and their philosophy of nonviolence, stood no chance. Their cities were reduced to rubble, their defenses swept aside like so much chaff before the wind. In a matter of days, their entire civilization was brought to its knees, its people scattered and broken. The Galactic Council, which had long served as the guardian of peace and order in the galaxy, watched in horror as the reports poured in. The scale of the destruction was unlike anything they had ever witnessed. The human weapons, it seemed, were not merely advanced, but something else entirely. They operated on principles that defied the Council's understanding of physics, unleashing energy and destruction on a scale that rendered conventional defenses all but useless. As the Council scrambled to make sense of the situation, they found themselves faced with a grim realization. The humans, it seemed, had not simply been preparing for war. They had been perfecting it, honing their skills and their technology to a razor's edge. In the aftermath of the attack, the Council convened an emergency session. The atmosphere was one of shock and disbelief, tinged with an undercurrent of fear. The humans, so long the subject of cautious optimism and careful diplomacy, had shown their true colors, and the galaxy trembled before their might. Dr. Elena Novak, humanity's liaison to the Council, was conspicuously absent from the proceedings. In her place, a new figure emerged: Admiral Thaddeus Vance, a grizzled veteran of humanity's many wars. His eyes were hard and cold, his demeanor one of unshakable resolve. In a voice that echoed through the council chambers like a thunderclap, Admiral Vance delivered a simple message. Humanity, he declared, would no longer tolerate the Council's meddling in their affairs. They would forge their own path, charting a course through the stars that was guided by their own interests and their own indomitable will. The Council, he warned, had two choices. They could stand aside and allow humanity to take its rightful place as the dominant power in the galaxy, or they could face the consequences of their defiance. And as he spoke these words, the Council knew that they were not a bluff, but a promise. In the days and weeks that followed, the galaxy watched in stunned disbelief as humanity's true nature was laid bare. The Council, once the proud guardian of peace and order, found itself powerless in the face of this new threat. And as the balance of power shifted, the very foundations of the galactic order began to crumble. The tipping point had been reached, and there was no turning back. The galaxy would never be the same again. Galactic crisis. In the wake of humanity's brutal display of power, the galaxy descended into chaos. The news of the alien settlement's destruction spread like wildfire, igniting long-simmering tensions and ancient rivalries. Species that had long been bound by the Council's laws and treaties now saw an opportunity to settle old scores and claim new territory. As border skirmishes and proxy wars erupted across the stars, the Council found itself struggling to maintain order. They had long relied on the threat of economic sanctions and diplomatic pressure to keep the peace, but in the face of humanity's overwhelming military might, these tools seemed woefully inadequate. To make matters worse, the humans seemed to revel in the chaos. Their ships, now a common sight in the galaxy's most troubled regions, often served to escalate conflicts rather than diffuse them. Human mercenaries and arms dealers flooded the black markets, selling their advanced weapons and technology to the highest bidder. And yet, even as the galaxy burned, there were those who sought to test humanity's resolve. Some species, emboldened by the Council's apparent weakness, launched attacks on human colonies and outposts. They believed that they could succeed where the Council had failed, that they could bring humanity to heel through sheer force of arms. But they were wrong. Humanity's response was as swift as it was brutal. Their warships, now revealed to be far more advanced than even the Council had suspected, struck with a precision and ferocity that left their enemies reeling. Human soldiers, augmented by cutting-edge technology and trained in the most unforgiving environments imaginable, proved to be an unstoppable force on the battlefield. As the body count mounted and the list of broken civilizations grew ever longer, the galaxy began to realize the true extent of humanity's power. This was not a species that could be reasoned with or controlled. They were a force of nature, a storm that would sweep aside anything in its path. Amidst the growing chaos, the Council convened once more. The atmosphere was one of desperation and fear, tinged with a grim resignation. They had long believed that they could guide the younger races towards a brighter future, that they could shepherd them along the path of peace and enlightenment. But in the face of humanity's unyielding aggression, such beliefs now seemed hopelessly naive. As the Council debated and argued, Dr. Elena Novak made a surprise appearance. The renowned scientist, once humanity's most prominent advocate for peace and cooperation, now seemed a changed woman. Her eyes were hard and cold, her demeanor one of unshakable resolve. In a voice that cut through the clamor like a knife, Dr. Novak delivered a simple message. Humanity, she declared, had no desire for conquest or domination. They simply wished to be left alone, to forge their own path through the stars without interference from the Council or anyone else. But, she warned, if the galaxy refused to accept this new reality, if they continued to stand in humanity's way, then they would face the full might of the human war machine. And as she spoke these words, the Council knew that they were not a threat, but a promise. As the Council struggled to find a response, as the galaxy trembled before the specter of all-out war, a grim realization began to take hold. The old order, the one that had governed the stars for countless millennia, was crumbling. And in its place, a new power was rising, one that would reshape the very fabric of the cosmos itself. A new galactic order. In the months and years that followed, the galaxy witnessed a transformation unlike any it had ever seen. Humanity, once a fledgling species confined to a single unremarkable planet, now stood at the center of a vast and sprawling empire. Their ships, bristling with advanced weaponry and crewed by battle-hardened veterans, patrolled the star lanes like packs of predators. The Galactic Council, once the proud guardian of peace and order, now found itself reduced to a mere shadow of its former self. Many of its member species, faced with the choice between submission and annihilation, had chosen to bend the knee to their new human overlords. Those that resisted were swiftly and brutally crushed, their civilizations reduced to ash and memory. But even as humanity reveled in its newfound dominance, there were those among them who questioned the wisdom of their actions. They saw in the galaxy's subjugation a reflection of their own darkest impulses, a reminder of the bloody history that had forged their species in the crucible of conflict. Dr. Elena Novak, once humanity's most prominent advocate for peace and cooperation, now found herself at the center of a growing movement for change. She argued that humanity's true strength lay not in its capacity for violence, but in its ability to forge bonds of friendship and understanding across the stars. But her words fell on deaf ears. The leaders of the human empire, drunk on the heady brew of power and conquest, had no interest in relinquishing their hard-won gains. They saw in the galaxy a vast and untapped resource, a means to fuel their own ambitions and feed their insatiable hunger for growth. As the years stretched into decades, the galaxy began to take on a new shape. The old boundaries and borders, once so jealously guarded by the Council and its member species, now seemed like relics of a bygone age. In their place, a new order emerged, one dominated by human interests and human values. The Council, relegated to a purely ceremonial role, could only watch in helpless frustration as the balance of power shifted irreversibly in humanity's favor. They,